The journey away from the fortress world was marked by a rare calm. The ship's wounded were tended in makeshift wards, while the survivors gathered in the mess to share quiet meals and memories. For the first time in months, the threat of imminent death receded, replaced by the slow return of hope. Vera spent her hours in the Strategium, reviewing reports and messages from across the sector. The victory had not gone unnoticed. Her name, and those of her companions, were spoken with reverence and gratitude in distant Vox transmissions. Yet, beneath the praise, there was a current of unease. The cult's defeat had sent ripples through the warp, and new disturbances flickered in the data streams. Isolated uprisings, strange omens, and the return of old enemies thought vanquished point one evening. As the ship drifted in the shadow of a gas giant, a priority transmission arrived from the Segmentum Conclave. The hololith flickered to life, revealing the stern visage of Lord Inquisitor Talanis. His voice was grave and direct. Inquisitor Vera, your actions have preserved more than a world. You have bought the Imperium time, but the darkness adapts. We have intercepted coded signals, remnants of the Eclipse's network, pointing to a convergence in the helios subsector. You are hereby granted full mandate to act as you see fit. Gather allies, marshal resources, and root out this threat before it takes shape. The message ended, leaving Vera in silent contemplation. She called her closest advisors, Lucan, Ro, and Mirabelle, to the Strategium. We are not finished, she said. The Emperor's mandate is clear. We go where the shadow gathers, and we do not rest until it is banished. Lucan nodded, his eyes alight with renewed purpose. The Legionnaires stand ready. Ro's mechanical tones were resolute. I will trace the signals and prepare our arsenal. Mirabelle's faith was unwavering. We will bring the flame to Helios, and wherever else the darkness dares to rise. With new orders and a shared sense of destiny, the crew set course for the Helios subsector, knowing that their greatest trials and their greatest deeds still lay ahead. The ship's arrival in the Helios subsector was met with an uneasy silence. Once a prosperous cluster of worlds, Helios now bore scars of recent conflict. Entire planets darkened by orbital bombardment, void stations left adrift, and astropathic signals choked with static. The crew gathered in the Strategium as Muggos Ro projected the intercepted signals across the hololith, each one a thread in the tangled web left by the Eclipse's shattered network. Vera studied the data, her mind racing through possibilities. The signals converged on three worlds: Arcturus, a hive planet plagued by unrest; Veron, a shrine world reporting miracles and heresies in equal measure; and Lornis, a mining colony gone silent. Each bore the taint of cultist interference. We split our forces, Vera decided. Each world is a potential flashpoint. We must act swiftly or the shadow will take root again. Lucan volunteered for Arcturus, leading the Legionnaires into the depths of the hive to quell riots and hunt cult leaders. Canoness Mirabelle and her sisters would bring the Emperor's light to Veron, investigating the surge of so-called miracles and rooting out heresy. Vera herself, accompanied by Muggos Ro and a detachment of guardsmen, would descend to Lornis, determined to uncover the fate of its missing populace. The ship's holds bustled with preparation, ammunition distributed, prayers recited, tactical briefings delivered. As the strike teams departed for their respective missions, Vera paused at the airlock, her gaze lingering on the stars. Remember, she said quietly, we are the Emperor's hand. Where there is darkness, we bring light. Where there is doubt, we bring faith. And where there is fear, we bring hope. The teams vanished into the void, each bound for a world on the brink. The fate of Helios, and perhaps much more, would be decided in the shadows that waited below. Lucan and his legionnaires descended into the depths of Arcturus Hive, a city of endless towers and chasms where the air shimmered with heat and the tension of unrest. The upper levels teemed with refugees and enforcers, but it was the lower hive, where the light of the Emperor barely reached, that drew Lucan's attention. Here, rumors spoke of disappearances, strange rituals, and the spread of a shadowy doctrine promising salvation through chaos. The team advanced through labyrinthine corridors, guided by flickering auspex signals and the testimony of terrified locals. Graffiti marked the walls, twisted symbols echoing those of the Eclipse's cult. Lucan's orders were clear: find the cult's leaders, disrupt their networks, and restore order before the unrest could ignite into open rebellion. As the legionnaires pressed deeper, they encountered barricades manned by desperate hive-gangers. Negotiation was impossible. Violence erupted in the darkness, bolter fire echoing off steel walls. Lucan led from the front, his power sword cutting a path through the chaos, his voice rallying the disciplined ranks behind him. To tee the heart of the unrest, they uncovered a makeshift shrine, a profaned altar surrounded by chanting cultists and terrified converts. The air crackled with psychic energy as the cult's magus attempted to open a breach to the warp, promising his followers deliverance from the hive's misery. Lucan acted without hesitation. The legionnaires stormed the shrine, their faith and fire overwhelming the cultists. The magus fell beneath Lucan's blade, his ritual broken, the breach collapsing in a flare of unnatural light. With the cult's leadership destroyed, the hive's unrest began to subside. Lucan ordered the shrine cleansed and the survivors given a choice: redemption or exile. As order returned, he transmitted a coded message to Vera. Arcturus was secure, but the Shadow's influence had run deep. The fight for Helios was only beginning. On Veron, Canoness Mirabelle and her Sisters of the Sacred Flame arrived to find the shrine world transformed. Pilgrims flooded the basilica-lined streets, drawn by rumors of miraculous healings, visions of angels, and relics that wept golden tears. The local clergy, overwhelmed and fearful, whispered of heresy but dared not question the fervor openly. Mirabelle led her sisters through the throngs, their presence commanding respect and a measure of silence. They observed the so-called miracles with wary eyes: a crippled man walking, an icon shedding light, a child speaking in tongues. Yet beneath the awe, Mirabelle sensed a wrongness, a subtle, insidious distortion of faith. She convened with the planet's cardinal, who confessed his doubts. The miracles began after a relic was unearthed from the catacombs. Since then, the faithful have been changed. Their devotion is feverish, almost violent. Those who question are shunned or vanish. Mirabelle ordered an immediate investigation. The sisters descended into the catacombs, their torches casting long shadows on ancient stone. There, they discovered a hidden chamber, its walls etched with the sigils of the Eclipse's cult. At its center lay the relic, a shard of void stone, pulsing with warp energy, masked by a veneer of sanctity. As Mirabelle approached, the relic's influence surged. Shadows writhed, and the sisters were beset by visions: false saints, twisted miracles, and voices urging surrender to a higher, darker power. Mirabelle rallied her faith, leading her sisters in a hymn that shattered the illusion and banished the shadows. With the void stone secured and the chamber purified, the miracles ceased. The fever broke among the faithful, replaced by confusion and shame. Mirabelle addressed the crowds, reminding them that true faith needs no spectacle, only steadfast devotion. She sent word to Vera. Veron was cleansed, but the cult's corruption had nearly claimed the world's soul. The lessons of faith and vigilance would not be forgotten. The war for Helios pressed on. Lornis, the mining world, greeted Vera and Muggos row with silence. The orbital docks were abandoned, shuttles left adrift. As their shuttle descended, the surface revealed only empty hablocks and machinery left to rust. The distress beacons still pulsed from the main mining complex, a lonely signal in the wasteland. Vera led her team through the dust-choked corridors, every footstep echoing in the emptiness. The deeper they ventured, the more signs of struggle they found: bloodstains, hastily abandoned tools, desperate messages scratched into the walls. The miners had fought something, but there were no bodies, only the sense of being watched. Muggos Row's auspex flickered with intermittent readings. Residual warp energy. Life signs faint, scattered. Something is interfering with the scans. Following the beacon signal, they reached the central shaft, where the mining drills had broken into a vast cavern. Here, the walls were inscribed with fresh cult markings, and the air shimmered with psychic residue. At the cavern's heart, Vera discovered a circle of miners, their faces blank, standing motionless around a pit that seemed to swallow all light. A voice echoed from the darkness, both near and impossibly far. The gate is open. The offering is made. Vera acted instantly, reciting litanies of banishment as her team deployed sanctified wards. The miners shrieked as the spell broke, collapsing to the ground, freed from the cult's grip. From the pit, a shadowy form began to rise, an echo of the same entity they had sealed on the fortress world, drawn by the cult's rituals. Muggos Row overloaded the mining equipment, collapsing the cavern walls and severing the entity's link to the material world. The pit imploded, sealing the darkness once more. With the miners rescued and the cult's ritual undone, Vera transmitted her report. Lornis was saved, but the pattern was clear. The cult was not destroyed. It was adapting, seeking new ways to breach reality. The Helios campaign had ended in victory, but the cost and the threat remained. The three strike teams regrouped aboard Vera's flagship, battered but resolute. Each had faced a different facet of the cult's evolving threat. On Arcturus, the manipulation of despair. On Veron, the corruption of faith. On Lornis, the exploitation of isolation and fear. The cult's network was fractured, but its influence lingered like a poison in the AI, in the Strategium. Vera convened her inner circle. Holomaps flickered with data from across Helios. Reports of spontaneous riots, unexplained disappearances, and psychic disturbances. Muggos Row's analysis revealed a disturbing pattern. Each crisis had occurred at sites where the cult had left behind voidstone relics or inscribed warp sigils, even after their main forces were defeated. Canoness Mirabelle spoke first. "We have cut off the heads, but the body festers. The relics are seeds, each one a focus for the warp's corruption." Lucan nodded grimly. If left unchecked, these seeds could bloom into new cults, or worse, open more gates. Vera's expression was resolute. "We must purge every trace, not just the cultists, but the symbols, the relics, the very memory of their presence. Only then can Helios begin to heal." The campaign shifted from open battle to a relentless hunt. Teams of legionnaires and sisters scoured the sector, rooting out hidden caches and sanctifying tainted sites. Muggos Row coordinated with local Mechanicus enclaves, using Auspex sweeps and data mining to track down every last signal. The work was grueling and unending. Some worlds welcomed the cleansing, grateful for deliverance. Others, gripped by suspicion or shame, resisted, forcing the strike teams to balance force with compassion. In every case, Vera insisted on transparency and justice, her reputation growing as both a scourge to heretics and a shield to the innocent. As the last relic was destroyed and the final cultist den uncovered, a fragile peace settled over Helios. Yet even in victory, Vera knew the storm was not ended, merely postponed. The cult's message had spread, and somewhere in the darkness, new threats were gathering. The Emperor's mandate was clear: vigilance without end, and faith without fear. The war against the Shadow would continue, wherever it chose to rise. As Helios began to recover, Vera's ship became a beacon for refugees, informants, and Imperial agents eager to pledge their loyalty or share what they knew of the cult's lingering influence. The Strategium was rarely quiet. New reports arrived daily, some hopeful, others grim. The cost of the campaign was mounting, not just in lives, but in trust and stability. The Legionnaires, though victorious, were diminished. Lucan spent long hours drilling new recruits, forging them into a cohesive unit while mourning those lost in the hive's depths. The Sisters of the Sacred Flame tended to the wounded and the traumatized, their prayers a balm against the nightmares that haunted many after the battles on Veron and Lornis. Muggos Row, meanwhile, was tireless. He tracked psychic echoes through the noosphere, rooting out even the faintest traces of voidstone or warp energy. His work revealed a sobering truth. The cult's network was more resilient than anyone had guessed. Remnants had gone to ground, blending into local populations, waiting for the next opportunity to strike. Vera herself became a symbol of both hope and dread. To the faithful, she was the Emperor's hand, a living reminder that the Imperium would not abandon its worlds to darkness. To those who had dabbled in heresy or profited from chaos, she was a specter, unyielding, relentless, and always watching. Yet the strain showed. In rare moments of solitude, Vera reflected on the cost of her choices. Each world saved was another burden, each victory another reminder of the war's endlessness. She found solace only in her companions and in the certainty of her purpose. One night, as the ship drifted in the silence between stars, Vera stood alone in the chapel, the light of a single candle flickering before the Emperor's icon. She whispered a prayer, not for victory, but for the strength to endure, and for those who would follow her example when she could fight no more. The war against the shadow was unending, but so too was the light she carried. Peace in Helios was fragile, and beneath its surface, old wounds festered. In the wake of the purges, those who had lost kin or livelihoods to the cult's corruption found themselves adrift, some grateful, others resentful. On Arcturus, rumors spread of legionnaire brutality. On Veron, whispers accused the sisters of silencing dissent along with heresy. Even on Lornis, the miners eyed the sky warily, fearing the return of horrors from below. Vera recognized the danger. She summoned planetary governors, priests, and Mechanicus overseers to a council aboard her flagship. The gathering was tense, each faction nursing grievances or suspicions. Vera addressed them with candor. The shadow exploited our divisions. If we allow resentment to fester, we invite its return. The Emperor's justice is not vengeance. It is restoration and vigilance. She tasked Lucan and the Legionnaires with training local defense forces, not as conquerors, but as mentors. The Sisters of the Sacred Flame established hospices and schools, teaching faith and resilience. Mugos Row worked with the Mechanicus to repair infrastructure and monitor for further warp taint. Progress was slow, but signs of healing emerged. On Veron, the faithful rebuilt their shrines, this time under the watchful eyes of both sisters and laity. On Arcturus, the Legionnaire's presence in the Underhive became a symbol of protection rather than oppression. On Lornis, the miners returned to their work, bolstered by new safety protocols and regular blessings. Yet, in the shadows, a different kind of seed was growing. A charismatic agitator on Arcturus began to gather those disillusioned by the purges, preaching a gospel of self-reliance and suspicion of imperial authority. On Veron, a secretive sect formed, blending orthodox faith with forbidden rituals, convinced that true miracles required risk and sacrifice. That Vera's network soon uncovered these movements. She responded not with immediate force, but with investigation and dialogue, seeking to understand the roots of unrest. She knew that every rebellion began as a cry for justice unmet, and that the Shadow's greatest weapon was not the warp, but the wounds left unhealed. The battle for Helios was no longer just against cultists. It was for the very soul of its people. As the months passed, Vera's campaign shifted from open conflict to a subtler, more perilous struggle. The cult's banners no longer flew, but its legacy lingered in the hearts and minds of Helios's people. The agitator on Arcturus, known only as the Voice, grew bolder, his sermons spreading through clandestine voxcasts and encoded pamphlets. He spoke of freedom from distant rulers, of dignity stolen by outsiders, and of a new dawn for the Hive's forgotten millions. Vera dispatched trusted agents to infiltrate the Voice's circle. They reported back with troubling news. The movement was gaining traction not through violence, but through hope. The Voice offered food, shelter, and purpose to the dispossessed. His followers included former cultists, but also ordinary citizens who had lost faith in the Imperium's promise on Veron. The secretive sect called themselves the Children of the True Miracle. They met by candlelight, blending the Emperor's prayers with ancient rites. Mirabelle, ever vigilant, attended one gathering in disguise. She saw not heresy, but desperation, a longing for certainty and meaning after months of fear and loss. Vera called another council, this time inviting not just leaders, but representatives from the Underhive, the laity, and even the miners of Lornis. She listened as they spoke, of their pain, their hopes, and their distrust. She did not promise easy answers, but she did promise to listen and to act. Meanwhile, Lucan and the Legionnaires worked to root out the last remnants of true cultist cells, those who still plotted violence and chaos. Mugos Rose Auspex teams tracked warp signatures, ensuring no new breaches formed in the sector's fragile veil. Slowly, the balance shifted. Some of the Voice's followers accepted Legionnaire training and joined the planetary defense. The Children of the True Miracle, under Mirabelle's guidance, returned to Orthodox worship, their longing for meaning channeled into service and charity. Yet Vera knew that the quiet war would never truly end. The shadow could not be slain, only held at bay by vigilance, compassion, and the hard work of rebuilding trust. For now, Helios endured, and with it, the hope that the Emperor's light could heal even the deepest wounds. With Helios stabilizing, Vera allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. She wandered the ship's observation deck, gazing at the stars that had been silent witnesses to so much suffering and resilience. The sector was quieter now, but the scars of conflict ran deep, and Vera knew that peace was always temporary. It was during one such night that Mugos Ro summoned her to the data vault. There, among the encrypted remnants of the Eclipse cult's transmissions, he had uncovered something new, a series of ancient signals, predating the recent uprising by centuries. These messages, encoded in a dialect of High Gothic almost lost to time, spoke of a covenant of shadows, a secret pact made by rogue psychers, traitor nobles, and renegade mechanicus, all sworn to a cause that transcended generations. Vera listened to the distorted voices, her mind racing. The cult they had fought was not a new cancer, but the latest bloom of a much older root. The signals hinted at hidden archives, lost worlds, and a prophecy. When the gates are threatened and the stars run red, the covenant shall awaken anew. She convened her council. We have been fighting symptoms, not the disease. The eclipse, the relics, the unrest. These are echoes of something ancient and unfinished. If we do not find and destroy the covenant, this cycle will repeat here and across the Imperium. Lucan's jaw tightened. Then we hunt them. We hunt them to the edge of the galaxy if we must. Mirabelle crossed herself. The Emperor's enemies are cunning, but with faith and unity, we will prevail. Mugos Ro began to assemble a map from the fragments, tracing the Covenant's influence across forgotten sectors and dead worlds. Each clue was a risk, each lead a potential trap, but Vera's resolve was unbreakable as the ship prepared to leave Helios. Vera looked back at the world she had saved and forward to the darkness that awaited. The war was not over. It had only just begun. The hunt for the Covenant of Shadows would take them beyond the edge of known space, into the heart of secrets best left undisturbed. But Vera and her companions would not turn away. The Emperor's light would guide them, no matter how deep the night. The hunt began with a whisper, a half-deciphered coordinate buried in the Covenant's ancient transmissions. It pointed to the edge of the Helios subsector, to a world erased from Imperial records, Dathros. Once a thriving trade hub, Dathros had vanished from star charts after a catastrophic warp storm centuries ago. Now, its name surfaced again, a ghost beckoning from the void. Vera's ship translated into real space above Dathros, its surface shrouded in perpetual storm. Lightning flickered over ruined spires and the twisted wreckage of orbital docks. The planet's Vox was silent, but Mugos Ro's sensors picked up faint power signatures, evidence of recent activity. The landing party, Vera, Lucan, Mirabelle, and a squad of Legionnaires, descended into the storm. The air was thick with static, the ground littered with relics of past glories, shattered manufactorums, toppled statues, and the bones of those who had not escaped the planet's doom. Guided by Ro's auspex, they traced the power signals to a subterranean vault beneath the old governor's palace. The entrance was sealed by a lock of arcane and mechanical complexity, inscribed with the sigil of the Covenant. As Ro worked to bypass the defenses, Lucan and the Legionnaires held a tense perimeter, their eyes alert for movement in the shadows. Within the vault, they found a library of forbidden lore, tomes bound in human skin, data slates brimming with heretical research, and a stasis capsule containing a single, hooded figure. The figure's heartbeat was slow but strong, sustained by ancient life support systems. Mirabelle's voice was a whisper. A sleeper, one of the Covenant, preserved for centuries. Vera ordered the capsule secured and the vault's contents cataloged. As the team prepared to return to the ship, alarms blared. Something had triggered the palace's remaining defenses. Servitor guardians, twisted by centuries of neglect and corruption, lurched from the shadows. The team fought their way back to the surface, relics and prisoner in tow. Dathros burned behind them, the first trail uncovered, but not without cost. As the ship broke orbit, Vera gazed at the stasis capsule, knowing that the answers and dangers within would shape the next phase of their quest. The Covenant of Shadows was real, and their secrets were only beginning to unfold. Back aboard the ship, the stasis capsule was transferred to a secure chamber, its seals reinforced by both Mechanicus wards and the Sisters' prayers. Mugos Ro and his acolytes monitored the sleeper's vitals, while Mirabelle led a vigil, her sisters chanting litanies to shield the vessel from psychic intrusion. Vera watched through the reinforced glass, her mind racing with questions. After careful deliberation, Vera ordered the awakening protocol. Ro initiated the sequence, his mechadendrites dancing across the console. The capsule hissed as ancient gases vented and the figure within stirred. Slowly, the hooded sleeper awoke, blinking against the light, his eyes reflecting both exhaustion and a cunning intelligence. Vera entered the chamber, flanked by Lucan and Mirabelle. The figure regarded them with a faint smile. So the cycle continues. You are not the first to seek the Covenant, nor will you be the last. Vera's voice was cold and steady. You will answer for your crimes. But first, you will tell us what you know about the Covenant, its purpose, and its masters. The sleeper introduced himself as Alaron, once a scholar of the Ordo Hereticus, turned traitor by the promises of forbidden knowledge. He spoke of the Covenant's origins, a cabal formed in the dying days of the Age of Apostasy, united by a vision of a galaxy remade through controlled chaos. Their agents had seeded cults, uprisings, and heresies for centuries, always retreating into shadow when threatened. The eclipse was but a fragment, Alaron said. The true Covenant lies deeper, hidden in the void between worlds. They seek the Black Archive, a repository of secrets and weapons lost to time. If they find it, no force in the Imperium will contain what follows. Vera pressed him for locations, allies, weaknesses. Alaron gave only riddles and warnings, his loyalty to the Covenant unbroken by threats or promises. Yet, in his ramblings, Ro detected patterns, coordinates, names, and references to a lost Mechanicus outpost on the edge of the Perseid Expanse. As the interrogation ended, Vera ordered Alaron return to stasis. She gathered her council. We have our next lead. The Black Archive must not fall into the Covenant's hands. Prepare for departure. The hunt continued, now with a new urgency, and the chilling knowledge that the true enemy was always one step ahead. The ship's course was set for the Perseid Expanse, a region of space where Imperial authority was little more than a memory, and the void was haunted by the wreckage of lost expeditions. The outpost Alaron had spoken of, designated Sigma 9, was a name known only in forbidden Mechanicus lore. It was rumored to house relics too dangerous for even the tech priests to study openly. As they neared the coordinates, the void grew thick with debris. Shattered hulls, drifting servitors, and the remnants of ancient battles. The Auspex registered faint energy signatures, but no clear sign of life. Mugos Ro's voice was grave. The outpost defenses are partially active. Automated turrets, minefields, and something else. A signal, repeating on a frequency used only by the most secret Mechanicus enclaves. Vera ordered a cautious approach. The ship's shields flared as they passed through the minefield, guided by Ro's precise calculations. At last, Sigma 9 emerged from the darkness, a fortress of black iron, its spires bristling with weaponry, its gates sealed by a code lost to time. A landing party assembled. Vera, Lucan, Mirabelle, Ro, and a squad of legionnaires. They docked at a maintenance airlock, cutting through the ancient seals. Inside, the corridors were choked with dust and the scent of machine oil. The walls were lined with cogitators, their screens flickering with cryptic warnings as they advanced. Servitor guardians stirred, their voices echoing in binary. Intruders. Identify. Intruders. Identify. Ro stepped forward, broadcasting his authority as a Mugos. The servitors hesitated, then stood down, allowing the team to pass deeper into the outpost. In the central vault, they found what they had feared, evidence of recent intrusion. The vault's doors had been forced, and inside, data stacks were ransacked, their contents stolen or destroyed. Only a single data core remained, its access protected by a complex cipher. AS Ro began the decryption. Lucan signaled an alert. Movement in the lower levels. We're not alone. Vera readied her weapon. The Covenant is here. Hold the vault. We finish this now. The hunt for the Black Archive had become a race against time, and the enemy was closer than ever. The outpost's alarms wailed as the team braced for confrontation. Lucan and the Legionnaires formed a defensive line at the vault entrance, bolters trained on the shadowed corridors. Mirabelle and her sisters began a low chant, their voices weaving a ward of faith against the warp's touch. Mugos Ro's mechadendrites danced over the ancient data core, racing to unlock its secrets before the enemy arrived. Footsteps echoed in the gloom. Then the Covenant struck. Figures in midnight robes surged from the darkness, their faces masked, their weapons a blend of heretical technology and psychic force. At their head strode a towering psyker, his eyes ablaze with unnatural power. "Seize the core," he commanded, his voice reverberating with warp energy. The battle erupted in a storm of gunfire and sorcery. Lucan's blade met the psyker's staff in a clash of sparks and force fields, each blow threatening to tear the chamber apart. The Legionnaires held the line, their faith and discipline blunting the cultists' initial charge. Mirabelle's prayers burned like fire, shielding her sisters and disrupting the enemy's psychic onslaught. Meanwhile, Ro cracked the data core cipher. Streams of forbidden knowledge poured forth, star charts, coordinates, and a single, ominous phrase. The archive lies beneath the sea of glass, where the dead remember and the living forget. The Psyker sensed the shift and redoubled his assault, hurling arcs of warp lightning at the defenders. Vera stepped into the fray, her blade wreathed in sanctified flame. She met the Psyker's gaze, her will unyielding, and with a cry to the Emperor, drove her sword through his heart. The Covenant force faltered, their leader's death breaking their resolve. The survivors fled into the labyrinthine corridors, leaving behind the dead and the dying. Breathing heavily, Vera retrieved the data core. "We have what we came for. Prepare to exfiltrate." As the team withdrew, Sigma 9's systems began to fail, the outpost collapsing into ruin behind them. Back aboard the ship, Ro began to analyze the data, his eyes wide with awe and fear. "The sea of glass," he murmured. "A world erased from Imperial memory. If the archive is truly there, we must reach it before the Covenant does." The next stage of the hunt had begun, and the stakes had never been higher. The coordinates from Sigma 9 led the ship to the edge of Imperial space, where stellar maps faded into legend and rumor. The Sea of Glass, Viridia, was a world spoken of only in whispers, its surface transformed by ancient catastrophe into a wasteland of crystalline plains and mirror-bright deserts. No imperial records remained, but the data core's star charts were precise. As the ship entered orbit, the crew gazed down at a world both beautiful and haunting. Vast fields of fractured glass reflected the cold light of distant suns, and storms of razor-edged shards swept across the surface. Mugos Rose scans detected massive structures buried beneath the glass, their signatures unmistakably artificial and ancient. Vera assembled her team for descent. The archive is here, somewhere beneath the surface. We move quickly and quietly. The Covenant will come, and we must be ready. The lander touched down on a plateau of fused crystal. Every step crunched underfoot, and the air shimmered with static. Legionnaires spread out, searching for an entrance. Mirabelle and her sisters recited prayers of warding, their voices echoing strangely in the glassy silence. Rose Auspex led them to a fissure, a narrow crevasse plunging deep into the planet's crust. The team rappelled down, light glinting off the walls in dazzling patterns, until they reached a cavern lined with black iron doors. Each was inscribed with symbols of the Mechanicus and the Inquisition, warning of secrets too dangerous for mortal minds. Inside, the archive revealed itself, a labyrinth of vaults, each containing relics, data cores, and forbidden texts. Some were sealed by stasis fields, others by psychic wards. Rose's hands trembled as he cataloged the treasures. Technology lost for millennia, histories erased from imperial memory, and weapons that could shift the fate of worlds. But they were not alone. Echoes of movement reached them. Covenant agents, guided by the same data, had found another way in. The race was on. Vera gave the order, secure what we can, destroy what we must not let fall into enemy hands, and prepare for battle. The archive's greatest test is yet to come. The sea of glass glittered above, as the shadow of the Covenant closed in below. The labyrinthine halls of the Black Archive echoed with distant gunfire and the crackle of psychic energy. Vera's team moved swiftly, splitting into squads. Lucan and his legionnaires to secure the main vaults, Mirabelle and her sisters to sanctify the relic chambers, and Mugos Road to interface with the archive's ancient cogitators. Vera herself led a strike force toward the central sanctum, where the most dangerous secrets were held. As they advanced, the Covenant's agents struck with ruthless precision. Clad in void-black armor and wielding warp-forged blades, they fought not only with weapons, but with the power of forbidden knowledge, summoning illusions, corrupting machinery, and turning the archive's own defenses against the intruders. That Lucan's squad held the line at a choke point, bolters roaring as they repelled wave after wave of cultists. The legionnaires fought with grim determination, their faith unshaken by the horrors unleashed around them. In the relic chambers, Mirabelle's prayers formed a shield of light, banishing demons that clawed at the stasis fields. Her sisters moved methodically, purifying each vault and marking them for later retrieval or destruction. In the central sanctum, Vera and Ro confronted the heart of the archive, a throne-like device surrounded by swirling data streams and psychic wards. Here, the Covenant's true leader awaited, a figure shrouded in shadow, their presence warping reality itself. "You are too late," the leader intoned, their voice echoing with countless stolen souls. "The archive's secrets are ours. The Covenant will reshape the galaxy." Vera stepped forward, blade drawn, her will steeled by the Emperor's light. "You will not leave this place. The darkness ends here." As Ro worked to lock down the archive systems, the chamber erupted in a battle of wills and weapons. The Covenant leader unleashed torrents of psychic energy, shattering wards and hurling Vera's team back. But Vera pressed on, her faith a beacon in the storm. With a final surge, Ro severed the archive's link to the Covenant's network, triggering a failsafe. The vaults began to collapse, sealing their secrets in molten glass. The Covenant leader screamed, their form dissolving into shadow as the chamber crumbled but Vera's team fought their way to the surface, the archive collapsing behind them. As they emerged into the blinding light of the sea of glass, they knew the Covenant had been dealt a crippling blow, but at a terrible cost. The archive was lost, its secrets buried once more. The surface of Viridia is shimmered with the heat of the archive's collapse, molten glass flowing into new rivers across the crystalline plains. Vera's team staggered from the fissure, battered and bloodied but alive. The sky above was dark with the smoke of burning relics and the last flickers of warp energy released in the battle's wake. Lucan rallied the surviving legionnaires, performing a roll call and tending to the wounded. Mirabelle and her sisters moved among the fallen, offering last rites and comfort to those beyond saving. Mugos Ro, his robes scorched and his mechadendrites sparking, clutched a single data shard salvaged from the archive, a fragment of knowledge too valuable to destroy, yet too dangerous to trust to any but the most faithful. Vera watched as the sea of glass settled into silence. The Covenant's forces had been routed, their leader consumed by the archive's collapse. Yet victory felt hollow. So much had been lost, secrets that might have saved worlds, relics that could have damned them. The burden of that choice weighed heavily on her shoulders. As the survivors regrouped, Vera called a council beneath the fractured sky. "We have denied the Covenant their prize, but the war is not over. They will rebuild, and so must we. The Emperor's light endures only if we carry it forward, through vigilance, through sacrifice, through hope." Mugos Ro presented the data shard. Within this fragment are coordinates, other hidden sites, other caches of forbidden lore. The Covenant's network is vast, but now we possess a map. We can hunt them, disrupt them, ensure they never threaten the Imperium again. Mirabelle nodded, her faith unbroken. "We have seen the worst the Shadow can offer. Let us be the shield that stands between it and the innocent." Lucan's voice was resolute. "The Legionnaires are ready. Wherever the Covenant hides, we will find them." As the team prepared to depart Viridia, Vera looked back one last time. The Sea of Glass was now a tomb for secrets and for the fallen. But it was also a testament to endurance, to unity, and to the unbreakable will of those who fight for the light. The data shard's encrypted coordinates led Vera's fleet to a cluster of forgotten worlds on the fringes of the Segmentum Obscurus. Each planet bore the scars of long-forgotten wars, ruined cities, shattered fleets, and silent void stations. These were the Covenant's hidden caches, repositories of forbidden knowledge, and weapons designed to undermine the Imperium's very foundations. Vera convened her council once more. "We face an enemy that has eluded us for centuries. Their reach is vast, but so is our resolve. We will strike swiftly and decisively." Lucan's legionnaires prepared for assault, their armor gleaming under the cold light of distant stars. Mirabelle's sisters sharpened their faith into a weapon as sharp as any blade. Mugos Ro calibrated his auspex and readied his arcane devices, eager to unlock the secrets buried within the Covenant's caches. The first target was Nerithus, a planet cloaked in toxic mists and labyrinthine ruins. Intelligence suggested a vault beneath its surface, guarded by ancient machines and cultist zealots. The landing was met with fierce resistance. Automata awakened from centuries of dormancy, and fanatics wielding corrupted relics. The battle was brutal. Legionnaires fought through narrow tunnels, bolter fire echoing off stone walls. Sisters chanted prayers of purification, their flames cleansing tainted ground. Rose tech priests disabled traps and deciphered runes, guiding the team to the vault's heart. Inside, they found a cache of weapons, arcane devices capable of tearing the fabric of reality, and records detailing the Covenant's plans to ignite rebellion across multiple sectors simultaneously. The scale of the threat was staggering. Vera transmitted the findings to Imperial High Command. The Covenant is more than a cult. It is a shadow empire, poised to strike at the heart of the Imperium. We must unite all forces against it. As Nerithus fell silent, Vera's resolve hardened. The war against the Covenant was no longer a hunt. It was a crusade. and failure was not an option. With the evidence from Nerithus in hand, Vera's warning reached the highest echelons of the Imperium. The response was swift and uncompromising. Orders came from the Segmentum Conclave. Vera was granted full authority to coordinate a sector-wide crusade against the Covenant of Shadows. Reinforcements began to arrive: Imperial Guard regiments, additional Sisters of Battle, and even a detachment of Grey Knights, their presence a sign of the threat's true magnitude. The fleet swelled as it moved from world to world, each new victory rallying more allies. On the agri-world of Thalassa, Vera's forces broke a siege led by Covenant warbands, liberating the starving population and uncovering a hidden network of warp-gate beacons. On Voxus Prime, a hive world, Mirabelle's sisters led a daring assault on a heretic cathedral, purging its blasphemous clergy and restoring order to the city's heart. Lucan's legionnaires became legends among the people, their discipline and valor inspiring uprisings against the Covenant's agents. Mugos Ro's expertise proved invaluable, his tech priests disabling warp-tainted devices and sealing breaches before they could spill horror into reality. But the Covenant did not fight openly everywhere. On some worlds, they retreated into the shadows, sowing dissent and sabotage. Assassins struck at Vera's officers, and rumors of betrayal haunted every council. The enemy was cunning, always adapting, always watching to. In the midst of these trials, Vera called a conclave aboard her flagship. "We have struck the serpent, but its head remains hidden. The Covenant's master must be unmasked if we are to end this war." Ro's analysis of the recovered records revealed a name, the Veiled Regent, and a location: the fortress moon of Obsidian Halo, a place shrouded in myth and warded by ancient technology. As the crusade prepared for its final campaign, Vera's voice rang out: "We will not falter. We will not turn aside. The Emperor's light will pierce the blackest shadow. Onward to Obsidian Halo." The fleet surged forward, every soul aboard ready to face the heart of the Covenant and decide the fate of the sector. The crusade had become a reckoning. The fortress moon of Obsidian Halo loomed above a dying sun, its surface a labyrinth of black stone and shimmering force fields. Ancient void shields flickered across its surface, and the void around it was littered with the wreckage of ships that had dared approach in centuries past. The moon's reputation was legendary, a place of exile, forbidden experiments, and secrets even the Inquisition feared to name. Vera's fleet translated into the system amidst a storm of astropathic interference. The Covenant's final sanctuary was well defended: automated batteries, minefields, and a flotilla of corrupted warships. As the Imperial fleet took formation, Lucan's legionnaires and Mirabelle's sisters prepared for boarding actions, while Mugos Ro coordinated with the Adeptus Mechanicus to breach the moon's shields. The assault began with a barrage of torpedoes and a coordinated cyber attack. Ro's tech priests, chanting Benheric litanies, found a weakness in the shield harmonics. With a thunderous surge, the shields flickered and fell. Drop pods and assault craft streaked toward the surface, braving anti-air fire and psychic storms conjured by the Covenant's last sorcerers. Vera led the first wave, her blade blazing as she carved a path through the moon's obsidian corridors. The defenders were fanatical, mutants, warp-touched psychers, and the most loyal of the Covenant's inner circle. The fighting was desperate and personal, every chamber a crucible of faith and fury. At Kati, the heart of the moon, stood the Sanctum of Shadows, a cathedral of black glass and silver flame. Here, the Veiled Regent awaited, surrounded by his most trusted lieutenants. His presence warped the air, a living nexus of the Covenant's power. That Vera's strike team breached the Sanctum's gates, Lucan and Mirabelle at her side. "This ends now," she declared, her voice echoing through the chamber. The final battle began: steel against sorcery, faith against heresy. The fate of the crusade, and perhaps the sector itself, would be decided in the shadow of Obsidian Halo. The Sanctum of Shadows trembled with the force of battle. The Veiled Regent, robed in shimmering black and crowned with a mask of polished obsidian, stood at the altar, arms raised in invocation. Warp energy crackled around him, feeding on the agony and faith of the combatants. His lieutenants, twisted psychers, fanatical champions, and hulking abominations, formed a living shield before him. Vera led the charge, her blade glowing with the Emperor's blessing. Lucan's legionnaires advanced in disciplined formation, bolters roaring, while Mirabelle and her sisters unleashed hymns of cleansing fire. Mugos Row, protected by a phalanx of combat servitors, worked to disrupt the sanctum's psychic wards, denying the regent his full strength. The chamber became a maelstrom of violence and sorcery. The regent's lieutenants fell one by one, Lucan's sword cleaving through a monstrous brute, Mirabelle banishing a demon host with a prayer and a bolt of sanctified flame. All the while, the regent's laughter echoed, a sound both mocking and mournful. At last, Vera reached the altar. The regent turned, his mask reflecting her image 1,000-fold. "You have come far, Inquisitor, but you cannot destroy what you cannot comprehend. The covenant is eternal. I am but its voice." Vera's answer was steel and faith. Their blades clashed, warp lightning arcing between them, the regent's sorcery straining against Vera's indomitable will. Each blow was a battle of conviction, his for chaos and change, hers for order and hope. As the regent faltered, Mugos Row completed his disruption. The sanctum's wards collapsed, and the psychic storm turned inward, consuming the regent's power. Vera struck the final blow, shattering the obsidian mask. Beneath it was a face both ancient and young, marked by centuries of corruption and sorrow. With a final, defiant whisper, "The shadow endures," the regent dissolved into ash and light, his essence torn apart by the very powers he had served. Silence fell. The Covenant's last sanctuary was broken, its leader undone. Across the moon, the remaining cultists faltered and surrendered. The war was won. But as Vera looked upon the shattered mask, she knew the regent's words were a warning. The shadow could never be destroyed, only driven back, again and again, by those who would not yield. The light of the Emperor shone anew in the darkness, but the watch would never end. The fall of obsidian halos sent ripples through the sector and beyond. Across the liberated worlds, bells tolled and hymns rose in celebration. The Covenant's banners burned in the streets, their agents hunted down or surrendering in droves. For the first time in generations, hope eclipsed fear. Vera stood on the moon's highest spire, watching the imperial banners unfurl over the shattered sanctum. Around her, Lucan's legionnaires and Mirabelle's sisters tended to the wounded and the weary, their faces marked by exhaustion and pride. Mugos Row, his robes singed and optics flickering, cataloged the surviving relics and sealed the most dangerous vaults. A council convened in the sanctum's ruins. Vera's voice was solemn. "We have broken the Covenant's power, but the wounds they inflicted will not heal overnight. We must rebuild not only walls and armies, but trust between worlds, between faiths, between all who call this sector home." Lucan nodded. "The legionnaires will remain to train new defenders. The people must learn to stand for themselves, so darkness cannot return." Mirabelle added, "The sisters will guide the lost and comfort the grieving. Faith is strongest when shared in hope, not fear." Rowe presented a final report. "Fragments of the Covenant's network remain. We have the means to track them. The Mechanicus will watch the void, and the Ordo Hereticus will answer any new threat." As the sun rose over Obsidian Halo, its light refracted through the broken glass of the sanctum, casting rainbows across the battered banners. Vera looked to her companions, warriors, priests, and scholars united by sacrifice and resolve. "We have won a great victory," she said quietly. "But the Emperor's light endures only as long as we carry it. Let this dawn be a promise, that we will never yield to shadow and never forget what it cost to see the sun rise again." The sector's future was uncertain, but for the first time in memory, it was theirs to shape. And as Vera and her allies prepared to depart, the promise of vigilance and hope echoed in every heart. A new beginning, forged in the dawn after shadow. In the weeks that followed, the sector began to heal. On every world touched by the Covenant's shadow, Vera's name became legend, a symbol of resilience and unity. Statues rose in city plazas, not just of Vera, but of Lucan, Mirabelle, Ro, and the countless unnamed heroes who had stood against the darkness. The Legionnaires, under Lucan's command, established new academies. Veterans passed their hard-won wisdom to fresh recruits. Men and women who had once been miners, clerks, or even former cultists, now sworn to defend their homes. The Legion's banner, once a sign of war, became a promise of protection. The Sisters of the Sacred Flame, guided by Mirabelle, rebuilt shrines and sanctuaries. They offered solace to the grieving and hope to the lost, teaching that faith was not blind obedience, but a light to be shared. Mirabelle herself traveled from world to world, her presence a reminder that compassion could heal wounds that steel could not. Mugos Ro, ever vigilant, established a network of listening posts and data crypts. The Mechanicus watched for signs of warp corruption or Covenant resurgence, sharing their findings with the Inquisition and local authorities. Ro's innovations in defense and communication became the backbone of the sector's new security. Vera, though celebrated, refused to rest. She traveled quietly, listening to the people, rooting out the last embers of heresy, and ensuring justice was tempered with mercy. She met with governors, priests, and even former enemies, forging alliances and laying the groundwork for lasting peace. Yet in private moments, Vera kept the shattered mask of the Veiled Regent, a reminder that vigilance must never fade. She knew that darkness would rise again, somewhere, someday, but she also knew that the sector was no longer alone. Its people had found their strength, and its defenders would never again be caught unprepared. As the sector's worlds flourished, a new motto spread among the people. From shadow, light. From loss, hope. From vigilance, peace. And so, the legacy of the Crusade was not just victory, but the forging of a future where the Emperor's light would never be taken for granted, and where, together, the people of the sector would stand watch against whatever darkness the stars might bring. Months passed, and the sector entered a period of unprecedented renewal. Trade resumed between worlds once isolated by fear. New alliances blossomed, and ancient rivalries faded in the shadow of shared sacrifice. The scars of war remained, but they became reminders of what had been overcome and what must never be forgotten. Yet, even as peace settled, the vigilance that Vera and her companions had instilled did not waver. The network of listening posts established by Mugos Ro hummed with activity, intercepting whispers of unrest and tracking anomalies in the warp. The Sisters of the Sacred Flame trained new adepts in the arts of both healing and exorcism, while Lucan's Legionnaires patrolled the void, their ships a constant presence in the night. Vera herself became a watcher in the void, a title spoken with both reverence and awe. She traveled between worlds, sometimes as a judge, sometimes as a mediator, always as a symbol of the Emperor's justice. Her presence was enough to quell unrest or inspire hope, and her counsel was sought by rulers and commoners alike. One night, as Vera stood on the observation deck of her flagship, she gazed out at the stars, the shattered mask of the Veiled Regent resting in her hands. Mugos Ro joined her, his optics reflecting the infinite expanse. There will be other shadows, Ro intoned, other covenants, other threats. The void is vast, and its secrets are never truly silent. Vera nodded, her voice calm but resolute. Then we will watch, we will listen, and when the darkness comes, we will meet it, not as victims, but as guardians. Below them, the sector's worlds turned in the light of their suns, each one a beacon against the night. The Watchers in the void stood ready, not just Vera and her companions, but all those who had learned the price of peace and the value of unity. The story of the Covenant's defeat became the foundation of a new era. And as the Emperor's light shone across the sector, the promise endured. So long as even one soul stands watch, the darkness will never prevail. Thus began the age of the Watchers in the Void, an age of vigilance, hope, and the unending resolve to defend the light, no matter how deep the night.